So, welcome to the Inner Script podcast. I'm just going to give a little background to the listeners and the viewers that you are my aunt. So, welcome, Karen,
Thank
or Aunt
you.
Karen. So, just a little background. I have my aunt on the show today. I've known her my whole life, of course, but we've kind of been in and out of each other's lives. So, you and my mom are half sisters. You have your fathers in common. And so I never really got to know anyone from that side of the family except for you.
hmm
And everyone listening, I think, is on sort of a spiritual journey. So I'm going to add what really resonates with me is that there's no coincidence why we always kept in contact in one form or another. And now you're on this journey as well of sharing your experiences, your wisdom of helping other people. And so I don't want to go too far into it, but that's really what prompted me to reach out to you and have you on for an episode because there's so much power in your story, and I only probably know the tip of it.
hmm
So yeah, so tell me a little bit about, or tell us about your life coaching practice.
Okay. So for so many years, I have been you know, giving advice and talking to people and sharing my experiences and the things that I've gone through in my life. And I was thinking about it. It was a couple years ago, and I said, I really want to put this into a business to where I can help people on a different level. There's just so many parts of my life that I feel that I've overcome, what I help people to do is to overcome obstacles that they're faced with. Just going back to my childhood and having a very abusive upbringing with regard to my parents, my father and my mother. My father was a very abusive man to my mother and my sister, which was not Jenna's mother, but my other sister, who was not his daughter. And there was a lot of abuse towards her. So seeing these things as a very young child, it was sad and it was hard because you don't want to see these types of things and you have all these thoughts in your head. Why is this happening? Why do I have to experience this? Well, we were able to get away and we were able to leave when I was very young, when I was 7, my siblings and I. So, I got to see my mother as an example of determination to get away from that situation and what she was enduring and get away from it for her children. And really, my mother she struggled a lot, and seeing her overcome things helped me as well. And I fast forward my story to when I was 17 and I graduated from high school. I was in a residential boarding school, so to speak, in upstate New York. And during my high school years, from the age of 13 to the age of 17, and I was not basically raised in my mother's household because she still had a lot of demons that she was fighting, alcoholism, and she was still, unfortunately, getting into abusive relationships, which seems like becomes a pattern, unfortunately. So when I came back when I was 17, I had graduated high school. And that was, first of all, a shock because I wasn't even expected to graduate high school. And during this time, right before that, in 1986, is when I met your mother, Jenna, because we were not raised together at all. I
Mhm.
didn't really know about her. And our father, I was, still in contact with my father. We never had a very close relationship, but it was actually 1985 that I met your mother, not 1986. It was 1985 when I was 15 that I met your mother, and we developed a relationship and we were very close. Unfortunately, in 1986, our father, your mother's father and my father passed away. So he had also demons that he was fighting, with regard to alcoholism and uh, addiction to pills and things like that. So,
Hmm.
when Jenna says, I've known her whole life, yes, her whole life, but her mother, my half sister, we really didn't know each other, but we did develop a relationship. So fast forward to when I got out of the boarding school that I was in. It was for troubled youth. I
Can I
was,
ask you a question about that?
yeah, yeah.
Because you had gone through already so much up to that point. Did you feel like when you were going to that boarding school, like that was a relief, or was there more trauma that you endured in there?
Well, I was on a very bad path in my hometown. I was cutting school. This is very young. We're talking about 13 years old. I was cutting
Okay.
school. I was very sexually active. I was drinking. I was smoking marijuana. I was not listening to my mother. But again, the example that was being set at the time was a very bad example because this is what I was seeing around me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had made the decision to get away, and I decided that I wanted to be put into a facility or a boarding school far away. So just to remove myself from that um, situation that I was in. Now, during my years at the school in upstate New York, I experienced a lot of things. We're talking about anywhere up to 200 troubled youth from all over the state of New York on a campus in upstate New York. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that you deal with. I lived in houses with multiple females from all over the state of New York. I had to, lived with two girls in a room, three girls in a room, was always around that like group home environment. So yes, I did experience a lot there. I was never abused there. I was never treated bad there. It um it was it was in it actually I always say it saved my life going away. I was able to, not that I was always, perfect person, but I was able to learn a lot. I was able to create very, very long lasting relationships that I still have to this day. And I graduated high school from there. So that really helped me to focus on like another chapter of my life. But when I came home from there that weekend, I didn't even have a teenage normal childhood. That weekend I came home in June of 1987, I met or I reacquainted with who I began to have a relationship slash marriage for close to 15 years. So it was like automatic. I was in the home. I did really good when I, decided I wanted to focus on getting my high school diploma, things like that. I enrolled in my local college. And then I happened to see him as soon as I get out. And that started that relationship, which, my coaching business and my yearning to help people has a lot to do with what I overcame in that relationship. There was a lot of control and physical abuse, mental abuse, financial abuse, economic rather abuse. And I stayed for a long time. And it's just, it's hard sometimes. With me personally, I use myself because always knew that I wanted better. I always knew that I didn't deserve what I was experiencing. I always knew that this is not the life that I wanted for myself. And growing up with seeing the abuse and all that, I always told myself I would never allow myself to be abused by a man. And here I am in that situation. And a lot of people ask me, even to this day, why did you stay? That's the biggest question that I get. Why did you stay? And it wasn't for financial reasons because I had always worked. I always made my own money. I always paid my bills. Most of the time, it was me taking care of everything. So it wasn't financial because there are a lot of women that stay in relationships because they don't financially have the ability to get out because
Yeah, that's probably the number one. Is that what
yeah,
you find?
I do. They're 100% dependent on their spouse for financial means, like, and then there's always, the factor of having children involved as well.
Mm.
He, my ex-husband and I had 3 children. We had our first a year after I left the home. So I was actually a mother at 18. I was very young. I was in my own apartment. I was working. I've always taken care of myself. But, I don't want to be on here to bash anybody because what's happened has happened. And I think a lot of times, if we hold on so tight to the things that happened to us, we 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 can't move forward in our lives because we're so stuck holding on. I have released that from my life a long time ago, but it's something that I never will forget. We're talking about consistent physical abuse, consistent cheating, consistent, not spending time with the children. I mean, we had our first in 1987. We had our second in 19 I mean, not 1987, I'm sorry,
88.
1988. I know,
Yeah, I know it.
we had our first, right? Because Jenna and my, first daughter are 3 months apart.
Yeah, we're the
So,
same
yeah,
age.
yep. So, I'm sorry, 1988, and then 1995, I had, our second, and 1997, I had our third. We did not get married until 1996. So we were together for 9 years before we actually got married, which it was almost like a it was a competition for me with the other females that he was dealing with.
Mm.
For example, he had a relationship with someone else during 1994, and he had married her. She was a young girl, and he had married her, and the whole time he never stopped seeing me. And I knew about her, and all I kept trying to do is win, win.
Mhm.
And I don't wanna say he was the prize, but in my mind back then, he was the prize. And,
Yeah.
I think about it now and I'm like, "What was I thinking?" But anyway, he married her, and her and I were pregnant at the same time, and we both had our children in 1995. So our children are 2 weeks apart. I paid for the divorce for him to divorce her because I just wanted him to be with me because that meant I won.
And
So
let me ask you, as you look back at that now, because I get it, like maybe subconsciously feeling like he was the prize, but do you feel like it was really like, I'm more important than this woman or I matter more than this woman?
I think that's part of it. Like it was almost a how dare you do this to
Mm-hmm.
me when we've been together so long, like, we already have our daughter, we've lived together all this time, and then he had moved out and lived with her for a short time. It was almost like, you know, I guess I can put it this way too. I always just wanted a family unit. I
I get
wanted
it.
to be part of a family. And going back to my childhood with regard to, the situation that I was in, which was not a good family upbringing. He came from a good family. He came from a mother and a father and a house and and just a better nuclear family, so to speak. And I wanted just to be part of that. I would always yearn to be part of a family atmosphere or a family environment. But so we had our son in 95, and then we had our daughter and younger daughter in 1997. But again, all the time it was still me working, me taking care of everything. You know, he was a truck driver, so he was on the road a lot, and he was still, cheating on me the entire time. And people say, "Oh, well, you must have had low self-esteem," or, why would you allow someone to do that to you? When you're in that situation, if you don't look at it the same. I can look at it now with a very different lens because it's been so many years. Um, and I I can't say why I stayed other than I just wanted to be with him. And it's sad that the abuse that I endured for many, many years, I was never okay with. I never deserved it, and I know that. Um, and I feel like, I would say out of the years we were together, it was probably 80% bad, 20% good. So you
But
hold
if
on to the good.
Yes, and if you had all of this, I call it programming from your childhood, being separated from your family even when you were in that group home. I
Mhm.
mean, I feel like when you're so zoomed into it, when you're living it, you're so zoomed in. You just want that 20%. Even if it was
Yep,
10%, you just want that little
yeah.
10% is like, okay, I could be in
I
this
can
could be
choo I'm
enough.
okay. Yep, that's enough.
Yes.
Give me that. And it's sad because now I look back at it, hindsight is always 20/20, but, I look back at it and then I can't change anything now, and that's one of the things that I really focus on as an, older person, more mature, more,
You're still young. You're my young aunt.
still, understanding of what I experienced and what I went through. But when I meet people and I talk to them and I tell them little bits and pieces of my life, they kinda get shocked because I give off a persona of that I would never allow myself to be in that situation. Now, I did have a long career at Verizon, and I would meet people, and I'm very tough. I'm tough. I was a good supervisor. I always made sure my reps, when they did their jobs, and I trained them really well, and they did good. And but I did have more of a rough edge exterior. So when I would start to share my story with people, they're like, "You?" You were abused? Like, no way. I can't believe that. And I'm like, I was a very different person back then. I was a
Mhm.
very different person mentally, emotionally, spiritually, which, the spiritual part is what led me to finally break away and move forward with my life and decide that I didn't wanna be in that situation anymore, and that was in, December 2nd, 2001, when I was done. I was just over, and I had enough strength, and I just said, "That's it, I can't do this anymore." And, the ironic part is the flowers at my job, the poems. I mean, this person is not a flowery poem writing person at all. And I was getting, the "I'm sorry, I love you," "How can you throw 15 years away," etc. And I always say, even to some of my girlfriends who are in situations similar, I said, "You will know when you are done. There is nothing that that person can say to you. There's nothing that they can do for you or to you that will matter anymore. And that's the point that I got to, and I took back control of my life. And I owe a lot of it to my relationship with God. I definitely have to talk about that because I,
Please.
yes, I became a part of a church that I would, and again, it's the wanting to be part of a family and
Yeah.
having people around you that support you and things like that.
Can
And
I just add one thing? But
yeah,
just because I feel like this is such a theme for a lot of people and for myself included, if you go back to tribal days or where we came from, when we lived in those communities and those tribes, our survival depended upon whether we were accepted by the community or the tribe or
right,
not. And
right.
so that's such a core need, even
Yeah,
before love, which was
yeah,
very surprising for me to learn. We need that connection. So I
yeah.
feel you when you're saying that.
Yeah, and that's what that, my relationship with God and that church did for me. It allowed me to really study and understand the Bible. It allowed me to understand, the way I could change my life. I completely changed my life. I mean, I stopped smoking cigarettes, which I had smoked on and off since I was a kid, but I stopped smoking, I stopped cursing, I was at a peace in my entire life was just in a different peaceful realm, and that's what I finally, I say that that's what gave me that strength to finally say no and then not give in when he tried to do all these things to get me to not break it off completely. But I was ready, I was done, and I moved forward. Now, one of the things I share about my life too is the fact that through all the years that him and I were together, I never stopped pursuing what I needed to do for me. And I think a lot of women, I was thinking about this morning. I think a lot of women in this situation feel that they can't do anything with their life, that everything has to revolve around that person or the kids. I always knew I wanted to get a higher education, and I did so. And nothing was gonna stop me from doing that. And I went and I got a 2-year degree at the community college, and it wasn't easy. I did have just 1 child at the time, and I have to attribute a lot of my successes to the support system that I did have also. I did have a support system in my mother who eventually did become um, sober. In 1995, she became sober after the birth of my second child. My sister helped. My ex mother-in-law, my ex in-laws had helped. I had a support system around me. So I went to school and I got an associate's degree. I worked at night. I always pushed myself. And then I've decided to go further my education because at the time I was able to get grants, so I didn't have to pay for it. So that was awesome too. So
Absolutely.
I did go on and get a criminal justice bachelor's degree, but I'll tell you, it was hard. And I'm not saying that things were not challenging. I mean, there were times where I didn't have a car, and I would use his car or cars, and he would not let me use one of the cars, because, it was a control thing. I'm not gonna
Hmm.
let you use a car to go to school or go to work, but I always found a way to get there. There's times where I went to school. I remember going to night class and wearing dark sunglasses because I had a black eye, and I had black eyes multiple times. So, people would joke around with me, not realizing that that was why. I remember working at a place. I was a waitress at one point, and I had to wear my sunglasses during the day while I was working because, again, I needed to work because I needed the money. But there was always, there was challenges. There was, very long nights. There was, you know, me not necessarily being there for my oldest daughter as much as I needed to be, and, dropping her here and dropping her there and things like that, which I regret to this day, and that's hard sometimes. But I did, manage to walk across the stage and get my bachelor's degree when I was 9 months pregnant with our second child. So, that was something that was so awesome that I had accomplished that, because when I look back
Absolutely.
to my childhood when I was 13 and I was promiscuous and I was doing all these, things I shouldn't be doing, I never thought that I would graduate high school, let alone get a bachelor's degree. So,
Absolutely. What do
and
you feel like you were telling your mind? Like you said, you always had this drive to keep going, but what was your thought process? Like, can you recall anything that you would say to yourself or think in your head? Like, so many women would just kind of cave
yeah.
under the circumstances that you were living in. Like, do you remember what it was you had in your mind at that time that made you find a way, find a car, get to where I
Yeah.
need to go?
I am well, back then I was just determined. I was determined to finish what I started. I didn't wanna be a failure. I didn't want to not complete the goals that I had set for myself. And there was nothing that anybody could do to stop me from doing that. And it was mindset. Definitely, I totally I totally feel that mindset and how you formulate your thoughts controls how you live every single day. I could have been like, "You know what? I can't do this. It's not worth it. I don't wanna take the bus. I don't wanna have to take a cab. I don't wanna have to drop my daughter off you know, and pick her up at 11 o'clock at night and walk, half a mile with her in the stroller at 11:30 at night when I got off of work." I didn't I just was so determined to not have a life that wasn't successful, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I mean,
absolutely.
it's definitely something, and my biggest accomplishment is finishing my education, and then when, I had the opportunity at Verizon, I also got a MBA. So that again, it took me 4 years to do that, but it was something I said, "I'm gonna do it. I'm determined. I'm not gonna give up." And these are the things that I talk to women about that, um, come to me, or in these, the conversations that I'm able to have, is that, you have to set a plan. You have to just if you have a goal and you wanna do something, all it takes is proper planning and action. You just and determination. I mean, there's so many words we could sit here and talk about: ambition, determination, perseverance, you know, um, just overcoming the challenges and the obstacles that get thrown. But challenges and obstacles get thrown in our lives every single day, whether it be personal, whether it be at work, whether it be, in our relationships with family, etc. It's just about how you overcome these things, how you move forward, you know, how you decide what you're going to do with it. I've had a lot of relationships in my life that I thought would last forever. I'm talking about friendship relationships, not, just male relationships that I thought would be a longer time, but everything has an expiration date. I learned that a long time ago, and there's nothing wrong with that, which I accept, because one thing about me is I always tried to hold on and hold on and hold on. And I went to therapy years ago, and the therapist told me I'm a collector. Like, I collect and I can't let go of things. Well, not just things, but of relationships, because when I'm with or was with a man, even after my ex-husband, I always put my all into it, my everything into it. And I still allowed myself to be loyal and in certain relationships for longer than I should have been because I just wanted that feeling of being important to that person or loved
Mm.
by that person, you know, and
Yeah. You were getting
it
your self-worth through those means instead of through means of your own. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. I would say so. I've always been confident, like, I don't lack confidence in myself. It it's funny because my father was an alcoholic, my mother was an alcoholic, my sister was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I never I mean, I dibbled and dabbled when I was younger, but my addiction has always been to a person, to
Mm-hmm.
a man. So, I which can be just as dangerous, but I get hooked, I would get hooked on somebody and just wanna feel, you know, that belonging to that person. And I've been single for a very long time. I've been single since New Year's Eve 2018 going into 19. And I'll tell you, I am fine with that. I am fine with being single. I have great friendships, both male and female, but I see people often and they'll say to me, "Oh, well, what would your husband think about that?" And I'm because they automatically assume that I'm married. And I say, "I'm very much single." And I'm okay with that. I'm fine with this, and I'm at a stage in my life, Jenna, where I'm at peace. I'm at peace with not having to be connected to somebody, because I think a lot of women, they and men, we could speak about both, but they feel that there's this constant need to have to be connected to someone. And there's someone
So
I know
true.
from my past that she could never be single. She always had to be with somebody. And I would say, why don't you, see yourself being alone? Like, why do you and it was almost a pot calling the kettle black at certain points because who am I to talk when I'm in this similar situation? But, you know, I think it comes with a lot of growth and maturity and knowing what you'll allow in your life and what you'll not allow in your life anymore. That's where I'm at now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little older, so my routine is important to me. My time that I spend with people or not is very important to me. And I'm probably at the most peaceful place I've been in my life in a long time because I took control of where I put my energy and where I don't put my energy. I'm very big on energy.
I
I
love it.
Yeah, energy is huge because, I think back to I'm probably all over the place with what I'm
Not
saying.
at all, but everything you're saying is hitting, it's
Yeah,
you gave yourself the space enough to even realize what your values are, what your needs are, how to feel peace within yourself. I feel like so many people just come home, turn the TV on, or get lost in their phone, or get
yep,
lost in a person, or do everything possible to distract themselves from themselves. And they don't even really know what makes them happy, what brings them peace,
yeah.
what's good energy to them, and what's not.
I'll tell you, energy, I've spent so many years of energy on things that, boy, I wish I could turn back the clock because I don't want to ever say something was a waste of time because we learn lessons as we grow and we deal with people. We learn lessons. Somebody told me, it's not a waste of time or the relationship I was in with that person because I learned a lot about myself with, that particular person who was a male friend of mine who was about probably lasted about 5.5 years. And again, me clinging to something that was not a committed relationship. I did that a few times, 5 years for one and 5.5 years for another. So, because I'm very loyal. I'm a very loyal person, and I just really give my all. But energy is so important where you put your energy. I could sit back and allow myself to be sunken into this deep hole if I allow myself to do that, and I don't anymore. If it doesn't have a positive impact in my life, or if it doesn't feel good to me, or something that I get joy out of, I don't wanna be involved anymore, and it's an awesome place to be when you can choose that, because some people, feel like they can't choose that. So, energy.
Absolutely. And I believe where your focus goes, that's where the energy flows.
Yep.
So if you're focused on, I need this person, that's where your energy goes. If you're focused on, okay, I'm going to find my peace, that's where your energy is going to go. Do you feel like it's the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I spent so many years of my life literally addicted to a person. And it took a while for me to come to the realization and understanding of just being me and being alone, and not having that constant thought of that person. You know, it's it's like such a release. It's such a good
Oh, yeah.
feeling. It's such a peaceful place to be in in my life, you know?
Absolutely. And so this whole journey has brought you to a sense of purpose and sharing with other people. What do you find like in your coaching practice that comes up for you? Is it women that are dealing with domestic violence, or what do you see showing up?
A lot of it has to do with younger females that I would talk to. I did Uber for a year and a half as
I
my
remember that.
as my sole job, right? Because I took an early retirement from Verizon in 2019, moved to Raleigh, moved to Charlotte, worked at Spectrum for a year. I had, just bounced around a little bit, and then when I came back to where I'm at now, in 2022, I did Uber for a year and a half. So I'll tell you, you meet a lot of people when you're driving people around in your car. So, and it was great because I felt, and this is part of the reason that I had started the business too, is a lot of people that came in my car would tell me when they would go to get out of my car that they were so grateful that they met me, and that because I'm a talker. So we would talk and we would chat, and they hear I'm from New York and I live in the South. And, then that's kind of would start the conversation. And then, why are you here? What brought you down here? Etc. But I had literally 2 people get out of my car in tears saying that they know that there was a reason why they were put in my car. And I have had many, many, many others tell me that I inspired them. I helped them through things. I've had people that were in you know, domestic violence situations get in my car. And I provided resources. I provided help. I had one that I thought was being human trafficked, and I probed gently, but I probed the questions. I was driving her, a pretty far distance, and I would not let her go with the person until I knew who they were, and it was actually her father. And it was.
Okay, well,
It was her father, because as soon as I
okay.
saw him, they looked like twins. And but I'll tell you, so I've had some kind of scary situations that, I will help you. I will, do you need me to take you somewhere else? Things like that. But I always feel like my purpose on this earth is to bring light to people, to bring positive joy and energy to people that feel like there's no way to get out of situations. And it doesn't just have to be a domestic violence situation, it could be work. You know, people get in the car, would get in the car. I hate my job. I'm miserable. Okay, well, what are your options? You know, what does your resume look like? You know, do you need help writing your resume? Do you, you know, have a passion? You know, what do you want to do? Things like that. So it really helped me to grow as a person, knowing that when someone would get out of my car and I helped them, it made me feel really, really good. So that's, you know,
Absolutely.
part of the reason why I started doing my, you know, coaching business too. I'll
I
tell you.
love that. I didn't know that that's what really kind of started it for you. I love that.
Yeah, it did, because people kept telling me, you know, why do you not do this, you know, as a job? And I'll tell you, it's I have a full-time job because, you know, I have to pay bills. I'm very, very self-sufficient, independent,
That's okay.
and, you know, sometimes things don't, you know, jump off like you want them to do, you know, and you're making all this money so quickly. So, you know, but I'm comfortable and I'm grateful and I'm blessed always. But
And you're still living out your mission and your purpose.
absolutely, absolutely. I don't think that there's a day that I wake up and I don't feel like I touched someone's life. You know, I wake up and the first thing I say in the morning is thank you God for another day that I'm alive. You know, and then I think about what can I do to make this day better. So in my current position that I have now, I work in the medical field, receptionist type thing. And I moved offices recently, which was definitely God directing me to a different place because my previous office was very, very busy all the time. And for almost 2 years, I worked at that office, and I would have people leave my desk area, and they would be laughing, they would be happy, they would, you know, just again, like being when the people were in the car, they would say, "I'm so glad I came in contact with you today. You know, there's a reason why I came over to you today." You know, things like that. I think it's a lot, eh, to do with my personality and the fact that I can
Mhm.
talk to anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. I can just talk to everybody and anybody. So,
Yeah, that's one of your gifts for
yeah,
sure.
it
And your
definitely is.
one of your other gifts is numbers. I feel like you are
Oh,
so good with dates. I don't think
oh,
you've
yeah.
ever missed a birthday, even when I was a Jehovah's Witness and you weren't allowed to wish me a happy birthday. You found a way.
I did. I have a gift, and it could be a gift and a curse. Because some of the things that I remember, some people are like, you know, "What is wrong with you? Why do you remember that?" And I don't know. I mean, I think I should have been an accountant. I think about that sometimes. But yes, I'm very good with birthdays. And again, I'm loyal. Like when I
Hmm.
remember birthdays for people's family that don't even remember their birthdays. And I'll message them, "Oh, it's your mother's birthday Friday. Thanks for reminding me." you know,
Yep. And my brother's birthday, I'll add. You text me on my brother's birthday every year too.
every year. I know your mother's, I know yours, and I know, but the crazy thing is I don't know your kids' birthdays. But you tell me one time
That's
and I'll
not crazy.
oh
Please,
wait,
if you remembered my kids' birthdays, that would be like insane.
I think I remember the Naya's birthday, but not the other one. Yeah.
Okay. Can I quiz you? When's Naya's birthday?
It's in August, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
I just don't want to mess up 14th maybe. I don't know if the date is wrong. Is it the
No, that
beginning?
it's not.
Okay, but I
26.
oh dang. All right, hold on. Never forget
But
that.
August is good.
Yeah, I knew it was August. I just didn't remember the date. And then I have no idea what your I don't even know your younger
I
brother.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't blame you at all. Like I said, you've never missed a year, even when I wasn't allowed to accept birthday wishes.
That's so
So to
funny.
me, I'm like, you're my birthday queen.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember things and people just they can't believe it. But anyway, yeah, so that's it. Like I just have just I just feel like my purpose on this earth was to go through everything I went through, and I could sit in a corner rocking back and forth, and cry about the things that I went through and the things that I experienced and the challenges, but it would serve no purpose. And there are people that are stuck and they can't get out of it and they feel like there's just no way. And I'm here, on your podcast to just say to people who are listening that I am a example of being able to get out of very hard and difficult and challenging situations and being able to overcome, being able to get, an education, being able to walk into a Fortune whatever 100 company. I prayed the entire way from the parking lot to my interview that, God, please, I need this door open for me and my children so I can have a steady income. And I got the job there and I worked there for 19 years. And it afforded me a lot of abilities. And I mean, I bought a house. I moved to North Carolina when the company moved, and I bought a house and something again I never thought I would do. No one in my immediate family, my siblings or my mother, my father, no, none of them ever owned anything. So that was and it was a really nice house too. And, I sold it in 2019, and that is one of my biggest regrets in life. But I gave it to God. I dwelled on it for a very long time, and again, it goes back to what you allow to continue in your mind, and I
Yes.
held on to it, and I held on to it, and I got in a very bad place about that probably a couple years ago, and I finally had to say, "I give this to you, God. Whatever I don't have anymore, I'm not supposed to have." There was a reason I had that house for 15 I actually had the house for 15 years, and as a single mother, as, being able to go from where I came from to owning my own house, never missed a mortgage payment, never got a shut off notice for the lights. I was always focused. And,
Yeah.
again, I think my message really stands to say, if you put your mind to something and you make a plan and you really focus on the steps that you need to get to that point, anything is doable. Anything is possible. You just have to be determined to do it
Yeah.
and
And you have
overcome.
to have that goal in place. Sometimes people can't even see the vision,
Yeah,
and you
that's
help them
very
hold
true
that
too.
vision.
That's very true too. I mean, I'm not where I want to be in life. I'm not going to say that I'm where I wish I was. At my age, I do wish I had different things that I did different. We all do. I think that's human nature that
Mm-hmm.
we always think, "Oh, well, should have did this, should have did that, different." But I always think about the fact that there's people that are so much worse off than me too. I could be also in a much worse situation than I'm in. I mean, but one of the a very big thing I wanna make sure I leave on this podcast is the fact that you have to have support. You have to have people around you that are positive, that are feeding positivity into your life, that are true in your life. There was, something I read a long time ago that says, "You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And if you are like, they say, bad company, things like that. If you surround yourself with people who have no motivation, no drive, no determination, no ambition, no goals, like Jenna said, no perseverance, no, wanting to move forward, you're going to be in that situation. if you allow yourself to be in around that all the time. I'm not saying that we don't have friends in our lives that struggle, and we all do at certain points in time, but if you're around just that type of people, if you're around people that smoke and drink and party, and that's not what you wanna do, you need to change the people that you're around. You need to get different friends. You need to have,
Yeah.
you know, support, and I have been wonderfully blessed for my whole life of having people that have in my life, that I still have in my life, that are support system for me. I have my longest, dearest friend. We are friends for 45 years. And if I was homeless on the street, I could show up at her house with my little bag and I have a place to go, because certain people, you just know that you're supposed to be in each other's lives for forever.
Yes.
And and that's, one of a very big thing I want to say, you really just have to surround yourself with like-minded people on the same path, goal oriented, if you want to, I don't know, if you want to write a book. I don't know, Jenna and I were talking about my book before. If you wanna write a book, be around literary people that are gonna push you and motivate you to do it. We have
That's such a
chat
good
we
point.
have that chat what is it? GBT.
GPT.
Yeah, I am so not in that era at all, but we have so many tools now that people can do anything. I have a girlfriend who wrote a book. Actually, she's written 2 books. She's got 3 master's degrees and a PhD. Most educated person that I know. And she told me it had to be like 6 months ago, maybe. She's like, "I wanna write a book. I wanna write a book to help people that are financially, like, captive to their childhood trauma." And she went yes, she's, very smart woman, but she kept calling me every day. I went to that chat GPT, whatever you call it. She's like,
You got it.
"What I did was punch in some words and I got all this information." And then she put in her own, information, and it's all biblical based. It's called the Breakthrough Blueprint. And it is all about how our childhood traumas have to do with how we handle our finances as an adult.
That's amazing.
It really is amazing. So, it's just, my point to say that is that this generation has so many tools at their hands now to be able to do things that they want to do, you know.
That's so crazy that that's what she titled it too, because my coaching program is called the Soul Alignment Blueprint. I love
Oh,
that the
really?
same name is in there. Yeah,
Oh,
I had no
yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
But
because
I
it's a
will
blueprint for
say,
your life. Yeah.
yes, what I want to say though is that as nice as and convenient as Chat GPT and all this stuff is, I know that I connect most when I'm reading somebody's words that are coming straight from their heart. So I'm just going to give you a little mic drop because you're
Yeah.
eventually going to publish your book and
Oh, yeah.
it's going to hit at all the chords
Yeah.
because it's coming
Yeah.
from
The
another
heart.
soul and from
Right.
the heart.
Not technology.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that as well. But I'll tell you, I just want to inspire people. I just want to go to bed at night and say that I touched someone's life. And most of the time I do that. I don't care if I made somebody laugh that wasn't in a good mood. I don't care if somebody came out and, they got bad news. I encourage them, "It's gonna be okay," "Just you'll be over this before you know it," just encouraging words. I
Yeah.
just it's so even my grandchildren, I text them. I have 1 granddaughter and 4 grandsons, and I text them, "My beautiful granddaughter, my handsome grandson." You have to feed these words into the youth. You have to start it when you're young, and we could go on all night about, starting the foundation when they're children. of what's needed so badly in children's lives at the core of who they become for the rest of their life starts at home. It starts when they're children. And I can say that my oldest daughter, who has 5, 19, almost 19, 16, 13, 11, and 8, it's been a rocky road for her, but it's so important that even me as a grandmother, that I'm always just instilling positivity in them. "How did you do in school?"
Absolutely.
"Great." "It's okay if you didn't, get 100 on that test." "Study more." Like, always encouraging words, always positive thoughts, because when I was with my ex-husband, I could do everything right. I could go to my classes, I could get good grades on my exams and everything. It was never good to that person. I was never, it was never an encouraging word, a positive word, a a "I'm proud of you" word. I mean, my walking across to get my, bachelor's degree, he didn't even come to the ceremony, to the college to see me graduate. Um, but I just think it's so important with the foundation of kids these days, when they're seeing things that they shouldn't be seeing, when they're being spoken to, the foul, vile language that some people use with their kids, and it's horrible. And we can't expect them to grow up, you know, well, anything is possible, so I don't wanna say it can't happen, but we wanna change how we do these things, so, you know, even the young kids I come in contact with, just little things encouraging. I work orthopedics, so I see a lot of casts, and I see a lot of braces on the arm, things like that, and when they come out and they got the cast off, I celebrate that. Get excited for them, and that's how we need to be in life every day. We need to
Yes.
celebrate even the small things. We need to celebrate, just the air we breathe, because not everybody wakes up with air to breathe. And that's one grateful thing. If I could leave this, podcast too with, something that people don't always appreciate, is the fact that when you open your eyes and you take that first, breath when you're awake, not everybody does that. And you're here for a reason, and you have a purpose. And I always say, if you're here and you're alive, your purpose is not served yet. Find what that purpose is, find what your passion is, seek it out, and it's funny because I wanted to make sure I said this on here, but when someone is not someone, when something is constantly at your core, and it's you can't let it go, there's a reason for that. And there's a reason that, like, for me to help people all the time, is because it's at the center of who I am, talking to people and helping people, and encouraging people and making people laugh and making people smile, and, if they left my being around them feeling better, then that's what I'm here for. And that brings me more joy than anything else in life. I don't care how much money. I've gone through a lot of money in my life. I've had a I came from nothing. I had lots and lots of money, got to travel, got to do great things, buy expensive things, and really just go crazy. But then I've also learned to be more manageable and budget and not be wasteful. But I'll tell you, it's just so important to just be grateful every single day.
Yeah. You really turned pain to purpose. I have to say it like that because there's no other way around it. And
Yeah,
normally I would ask, what do you want to leave us with as far as like, what would you tell, that inner script in your own mind? But I feel like you already answered it. When you
yeah,
open your eyes and you are breathing in air, have that be your first thought.
yeah,
Thank you for the air that I have to breathe, the clean
yeah.
air that I have to breathe into my lungs.
Yeah.
I
And
love it.
yeah, and I mean, it's my first thing in the morning and it's my last thing at night. I just thank you, God, for another day. I hope tomorrow when I wake up, I can do even better. You know, I can touch a life. I can be a joy to someone, be a a light in someone's darkness. That's what I want to do. I want to be a light in the dark, in the darkness, because there's a lot of dark here in this world. And, you know, I just want to consistently bring a light to people.
And
Yeah.
you certainly are. So how can people find you? Because I know you're mostly on TikTok, is that right?
I am on TikTok, and it's so funny because I was always afraid, and this is a challenge I gave myself. I was always afraid to do live videos because I was, and my son encouraged me and pushed me to do that. And he's like, "Ma, you just have to do it and you just have to be consistent." So now I don't care. I mean, I go on not often, but I am on TikTok. I don't even know what my name is on TikTok. You want me
I'll
to?
find it and link it below because it's great to be able to connect with you and you're always sharing something positive, even if it's just what you're telling yourself
Oh,
that day. I feel like I always get something from it.
I'm consulting queen. That's who I am.
Consulting queen. You are.
So that I totally forgot that because I have like, you know, we all have all these different social media platforms, but I am consulting queen and I usually come on maybe once a week, maybe more if there's something I really want to talk about. A lot of times I'm in my blue shirt because I go on my lunch break at work and I talk in my blue shirt or I do car chronicles with Karen, you know, silly things like that. I'm also on Instagram. I have two Instagrams. I have my personal Instagram and I also have my consulting Instagram, which I will tell you is K Greene Consulting. And that is my consulting page. So that is where you can find me. Um,
Beautiful. I'll make sure I list everything in the show notes too.
yeah, so excited. So
Thank you
excited.
so much for being so vulnerable and so open and sharing what has led you to this passion. And I have to just also say that I love what you said. If you are still living, you haven't fulfilled your purpose yet.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Because I
It,
have people, not to keep you, but I have people that come into
no,
my job that are the oldest person I had come in my job was 103.
do you know?
103.
Do you know that that's what I tell Naya? I'm going to live to 103 and then I'm going to decide if I want to keep going. And now you're telling me there's someone at 103?
Well, okay. I mean, she turned 104, but she did pass away when she turned 104.
Okay. She changed her mind. That's okay.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, this lady came in, she was dressed, she had makeup on, her hair was done, she had jewelry. She was not in a wheelchair, she was walking in, and I was like, she was such an inspiration, but I'll tell you, I deal with ages from babies all the way to the triple digits, and I get very excited when I see triple digits, but I get, you know, I would say starting at 90 and up, I get, you know, it just touches me when I see, you know, how old these people are. And I
Yeah.
just, you know, sometimes I will literally say to them, you know, your purpose hasn't been served. You know, they're like, yeah, I'm still here. I'm still here. I said, that's a blessing. You know, it is a blessing when I see people's birthdays because I see the birthdays, you know, come up. And, you know, I was like, oh, you know, your birthday. Oh, it's just another year when you get this age. I said, but you're here and you're a blessing to someone. So again, I'm
Mhm.
using just these little things that I say to people during the day just to make them understand that you're here, you're important, you have purpose, you know. And even at 90 something, you know, I have women that come in 95, 96. They drive themselves to the appointment. The one guy was 99. And he says to his worker, his like aide or whatever, I think I'll drive myself to the next appointment. And I'm going, really? But hey, if he could drive himself and he's 99, why not? It's all about your mind. It's all
Yeah.
about your mind. You know, keep your mind constantly going because, and you know, I talk all night.
No, so can I, but you're saying so much wisdom here. Keep going.
A, a lot of people that I see have They are falling apart physically, right? Because of different things that are wrong with their bodies. But I think the most important thing that we exercise is our minds.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your mind constantly challenged. Keep your mind going. Read a book, do a crossword puzzle, stay off this all day long. I tell you, we get the magazines coming into the job still, and I've been doing the People magazine crossword. And
They
it's
say that really exercises the brain.
I know, and I'm basically saying, like, do something that challenges your mind because you wanna get to live a long life, but you don't want your mind to be gone because you didn't
Yeah.
exercise your mind and your brain muscles, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. It makes 100% sense. Like, how many of us remember phone numbers anymore? We're
Yeah,
lucky if we remember our own phone number sometimes, right?
I remember
Because it's,
phone numbers.
oh, you do? I'm not surprised. I do too. I remember phone numbers from like, I remember my great grandma's phone
Yeah,
number from when I was like 6.
yeah,
Why is
see?
it still in there? It's in there.
Yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, no, you're right though. You're right. And I think it's just important that, we stay keen in our mind. Because I always told my kids, look, and this is totally a joke, but I said, look, if I get old and my mind goes, or if there's a point in time where I don't know who you are, I don't know where I am, and my mind goes, I don't wanna be that. You know what I mean? So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I try to constantly do something to exercise my brain muscles. I'd rather my
Well,
body go and my mind be good than my mind go and my body be good. Yeah,
I get it.
yeah,
I
so
think the work that you're doing right now, and as you continue down this path, I feel all good things. I always felt the love from you. I always felt this connection with you since I was a little girl, and I remember sleeping over your house many times and just I love you, and I love that you're on this path right now of helping other people because you have come really far. And I only really knew the little
yeah,
pieces here and there. And
yeah,
so you've been a huge encouragement to me. You've also always, you comment on my stuff. You always make me feel seen. And I
yeah,
feel like that's a gift that you have with your clients as well,
yeah,
is seeing
yeah,
them, their true selves, not their traumas, not their problems, but you have a gift in seeing people. And I really, I want to express that to you because that's not everyone's gift. And
yeah,
that's what a lot of us need is to just feel
yeah,
seen
feel
and
seen.
to know
I
that
yeah.
hope.
And Jenna, I have to say, I know thank you so much for that. I am beyond proud of you. And I know the struggles that you've had in your young life. I know the things that you've overcome and where you are now because again, you're the same age as my daughter, my oldest daughter, your cousin. So
Mhm.
and to see the differences in your lives. Everybody has a path and, people choose a path they take. And, sometimes people can't get off the path they're on, unfortunately. But to see you and the peace of in your life and the joy that you are bringing to people and what inner understanding of self that you put out there and you teach people and you help people to do is unbelievable. And I look at you and I see you on your social media platforms and I am just in awe of you and you have been a tremendous light to me as well. And that you may not see that and may not verbalize that, but knowing your life, you are a complete shining light in this world. So don't ever dim. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't
You
ever
you
dim.
said at the beginning before we started recording, no tears. You
Yeah,
made
no
me
tears,
cry.
no tears, no tears, no tears. You
But
know?
thank you. You may
Yeah,
not have verbalized that before. Oh, I am getting emotional, but
yeah.
I always feel it from you. So thank you.
You're welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you so much for letting me be on here. If I touched one life, then my mission was completed. I am always here. I'm an open book, Jenna. I don't hide anything. I think it's so important just to be honest and true to your life and who you are. So if you have anybody that should happen to come on, or contact you rather, that, wants to talk to me or, get some more information or just, to ask me questions, I am so absolutely for that. I look to that, just to be able to
Yes.
help people. So yeah.
Yes. So I will make sure I'm going to list everything in the show notes so they can stay connected with you, so that they can follow with you, so that also if they are in a situation where
Mhm.
they could use your help and your expertise and your guidance, that
Yeah.
they can connect with you as well. So I love you. Thank you so
I
much.
love you too. Mwah.